Hi, welcome to Stop Digging Podcast. Our nonprofit, A Squared Lamp Groups, we work with a lot of people who are looking for that life work, that meaningful work, that new job, that spark that brings them to where they want to be, doing what they love. And yet there's a whole group of people who are already doing that and are still unhappy and maybe even feel guilty about it. According to Bamboo HR, employee happiness has been steadily declining since 2020. And 2024 received a score of 35 out of 100 in happiness, people that are working and happy. The highest happiness scores are in companies with less than 75 employees, but also unhappy workers, according to one CNN report, unhappy workers reduce the GDP globally by about 9%. And they also note that stress and loneliness are on the rise, with their numbers being about 41% and 20% respectively, and that's global. According to the Founders Report, 87.7% of entrepreneurs who report being satisfied in their work also say that they struggle with mental health issues, such as 50.2% report high anxiety, 36.4% report high burnout, 45.8% high stress, 39.2% financial worries, 31.7% imposter syndrome, 26.9% poor work-life balance, 26.9% loneliness, 21.6% insomnia and sleep disorders, and that is huge. Your well-being as an entrepreneur is crucial because you are your business. So we also know from A Squared Lamp Group's work with coaching and assessments and leadership development and worker development that the best predictor for success is emotional intelligence. We are excited because today we have a guest who did the work, and she's written a book about it. And let me tell you a little bit more about her. Her name is Betsy Pepine, and she is a best-selling author, speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. She works in real estate, and she has a whole host of accolades. I'm telling you, this lady is completely professional, successful. She is the kind of female mentor that women everywhere would crave. She's passionate about helping at-risk families and children. She founded a charity to help them with their housing. She mentors other people. Her own mentor is Barbara Corcoran from the Shark Tank, and she has degrees and just talent everywhere. So first of all, let's welcome Betsy Pepine.
Thank you so much.
Betsy.
Hi, how are you, Susan?
I'm great. I'm excited to have this conversation because we always talk about developing people to get them to go from failure to success. But when you're already successful and you're unhappy, my gosh, what do you do with that?
That's the journey I've been on for the last couple of years. I think that I made the assumption that being successful equaled happiness, but that's not necessarily so. I've got a property management company. We have a real estate school. I had a mortgage company, but I did recently close that. I have several companies and the nonprofit. It definitely keeps me busy. That busyness was not my problem.
It sounds like you're so busy. Like, how did you even know that you were unhappy?
I could just feel it in my body that something was misaligned. My daughters were leaving the nest, and I think there comes a point in time maybe that we do evaluate our lives and we recognize that life is short, especially when your kids leave the nest. I just felt this pressure, like time was running out and I wasn't happy with where I was and half my life is over. And so I didn't admit it to myself for quite some time because I didn't feel like I had the right to be unhappy. But I did realize I didn't want to continue on the path that I was at without seeking more exploration as to why this might be.
That's a tough one. I work with leaders and execs. When you're working your way up the ladder, aspiration is really the governing thing. But if you're already at the top, How do you deal with those kinds of things?
For me, it was recognizing that I wasn't enjoying the journey. I was really focusing on the destination. And once I hit the destination, then it was, okay, what's next? I think it's hard, especially in the culture that we live in, just pushing more and more just to feel like I have enough, I am enough.
It sounds like the way you defined growth changed.
I still struggle with that piece because I have such a growth mindset. It's one of the core values in all of our companies. I feel most alive when I'm growing, and I'm only growing when I'm doing something either new or puts me outside my comfort zone. And that's never ending, because once you've done something, then it's okay, I've done that. And that's what I've been working on. No one has to achieve to be of value. And I think that's where the disconnect for me was mainly.
When you were stuck in that cycle, did you
Mhm.
get a sense of value when you were doing these things?
Yeah, yes, for sure. My whole goal in life is to improve and empower the lives of others, but also just recognizing that it's okay not to always strive for something greater than what you've already done to feel worthy.
One thing that I'm hearing from you that is interesting to me too is people who are smart, entrepreneurial, tend to be intellectual, strategic thinkers. And so much of your conversation, just even in the get go, has been about feelings. And when I'm coaching executives or new leaders or people like at the top with aspirations, trying to think your way through things is
Mhm.
not the same as feeling your way through things.
I'm 56. And so I would say the last 6 or 7 years, for the first 50 years, I was not in touch with my feelings at all. I was raised in a home, great parents, but they were raised in homes that didn't validate feelings and emotion. And so I was raised in a very cerebral home. It was always, Betsy, what do you think? I've never to this day been asked, Betsy, how do you feel? Ever been asked that by anybody in
Mhm.
my family of origin. It's just not in our vocabulary. I was so conditioned to just totally bypass that and not trust that. I also felt like I had a very high tolerance for pain. I was numb to it, and then it would just go to my thinking. Then you start having symptoms of things in your body when you ignore those feelings for 50 years.
Some of it might be our age, working women
Mhm.
coming through in the workforce, 70s, 80s, we were told to not be emotional, right?
Mhm.
You had to be professional, the deadpan face. You couldn't react to anything
Yeah.
because you didn't want to be accused of being hysterical or irrational or whatever.
Are you aware of the app, How We Feel?
I've heard of it.
It's a free app, and I have it on my phone, and you can set it so it checks in with you with however frequency you want throughout the day. It'll vibrate, and then bubbles will come up, all these different bubbles in different colors. So you have good bubbles, bad bubbles, how you're
Right.
feeling, all these different bubbles. You pick the bubble that describes how you're feeling, and it starts tracking your trends so you can see what environments and people and situations make you feel good versus bad, and the nuances of it.
How do you go through an exploration when you're running 4 companies? How did you manage it?
I've always been very value based, and the companies, they're all under an umbrella and they have the similar values. And so I've always been attuned to that and making sure that we live our values and we hire by them, we rehome by them. I'm definitely much more sensitive to other people who I may have deemed very emotional, too emotional in the past. And now I admire their ability to express their emotions. I think it's also made me more approachable, especially to the younger generations who seem more in touch with their feelings than people in my generation.
Is there a feeling that was harder to distinguish than the others?
I don't think so. I think the nuances of them, I wasn't used to. In fact, I bought Atlas of the Heart, Brene Brown's book. That's a great
Mhm.
book because it's like an encyclopedia of feelings. I think what was not so much difficult, but enlightening was understanding that there are not good and bad emotions. That was very freeing to know that it's okay to feel them and to process them.
When we say process feelings, some people who maybe where we were don't know what that means.
It's to embrace it, because in the past I would ignore it. I would also get down on myself, thinking that there was something wrong with me or I'm somehow different or less than, or unreasonable or some kind of negative characteristic because I had this feeling. But now I don't feel that way. It's acknowledging it, it's naming it, it's accepting it, expressing it to people if I feel I need to. A lot of times I don't. So that's what I mean by process it versus just ignoring it, pretending it's not there, and waiting for it to resurface again.
And you have described a couple of times where the lack of emotional processing has caused physical issues with you. And what kinds of issues would people experience?
It can show up as physical pain in your body. I don't think that's even disputed anymore. There's a great book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it seems like it's going to manifest in some way. So for me, it's sleep disturbance, physical pain. For me, it's particularly, for some reason, it's in my back, lower back pain. I got used to feeling in a lower quality of health, not feeling myself. To me, my steady state was lower, deflated than perhaps others that process things better.
Your book is called Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphoric Boxes That Bind Us. So you talked about your birth family, a box of emotional expectation or parameters that was set for you that you needed to reevaluate. Tell our listeners some of the other boxes and what you had to do to get out of them.
I've come across a lot of boxes, some familial. I had to come from a family where everyone is a physician. I have two sisters. My dad's a physician. We grew up working in the hospital alongside him. There was just an expectation we would all be pre-med. They wanted what was best for their children. And in their generation, maybe that was the case, but they thought that and if I didn't want to be a physician, then the other two options in their mind would be an attorney or an engineer. It's funny. I felt like the failure in my family, and I had an agent work for me once, and in her family, there was so much animosity towards her because she very much wanted to go to college, and her whole family thought that was terrible. Why do you feel like you need to go to college? You want to one up us, our family. We're not good enough for you. It was so funny how just by the luck of the family, you could be viewed in one family as one way and in another family, complete opposite way. So family of origin boxes, gender boxes for sure. My goodness, those are rampant.
What are some other boxes?
A friend of mine, he was telling me that his brother's in his 50s. His brother never married, had just arranged two surrogates to have his babies. And he has two babies. And I was like, what? I'd never heard of that. I was just shocked because it was even hard for me to envision because I had never heard that, never seen that yet. And I feel like I'm pretty attuned to boxes. And here I am thinking, wow, that's interesting. But I was like, great. I thought that was wonderful. I've got two dogs. They're not in boxes. They're not worried about being in the good dog box today. And am I going to fail at running after the squirrel? They don't have these mental constraints that we humans suffer from.
So much of what we crave and need, though, is safety and security. And so boxes serve that purpose. They're there to help us make sense of our world. And you can't be completely boxless. But if you know that you can break out of those boxes, or that if they're not serving you or they've been placed on you, some of the boxes that you were describing that you needed to break out of were boxes that seemed like they were built out of expectations that others had for you that you never really questioned. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, you can go to her website, which is betsypepine.com. That's BetsyPepine.com. Or you can visit her PepineRealty.com if you want to know a little bit more about her professional work and some of her companies. And the name of her book is Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphoric Boxes That Bind Us.
The book is a collection it's story-based, short chapters of different stories throughout my life of all boxes of all different types, and roughly grouped by before I even understood that boxes existed. And then in the middle, it's like I'm starting to be aware that, wait a minute, there's some boxes here that don't serve me. And then the last set of stories are clear examples of how I was aware and got out of them. And then interspersed with that is some tactics on how to get out of boxes yourself if you are feeling like you would like to exit a box that you're in currently.
Thank you so much, Betsy. And to our listening audience, thank you for being a Stop Digging podcast, community podcast listener. Thanks.
Thank you.